playing against them in the supers and just seeing how Coach Deifel interacted with her, girls, and how she was hugging Taylor and crying with Taylor. Like, I didn't have that at Texas. Like, we had a relationship, but it wasn't like, Coach White would cry for us or like anything like that. So seeing like her like basically kind of like take on that mom role and, treat her players as like her daughters was like a really cool thing. It's like something like I've always wanted, just like a family like kind of environment for a team. And so seeing that and then hearing Carly and how much she loved here, it was like kind of like, okay, like that's somewhere that I could like see myself playing. And then Coach D actually was like we want to be your happy ending, and I was like, okay, that's it. Like,
that's so sweet.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was like, okay, I'm sold. You got me.
Courtney Day is making herself right at home in her final collegiate season for the Razorback softball team.
This ball is off to the train tracks from Courtney Day. And there are just not many hitters in the country who can do what Courtney Day can do.
But this time last year, Day wasn't even playing softball. After years of dedicating herself to the game, she was burnt out and walked away.
I had been struggling with a back injury. We tried everything, and at that point it was just not working. And so I was getting into like a very bad mental state, because at that point I was like, no, hanging up the cleats, done.
But no longer playing led her to something unexpected: coaching.
I was always like, I'm never gonna be a coach. I just couldn't do it. When the opportunity arose, it was like my first job to be a head coach. Like, that's not something that's very heard of. It was definitely a learning experience.
In the spring of 2024, Courtney Day was the head coach for a high school softball team in Texas, leading them to the school's first playoff berth in years.
Coaching kind of tests you a little bit, because you have to like train your brain to like teach it a different way. And so it kind of, tested how much I knew about the game, and like I felt like I could be a better softball player now that I've actually coached all of these teams than I did before.
Her experience as a coach made her realize something. Her game wasn't over.
It kind of sparked the interest of like, what if? But the thought of like playing again, I guess, never left my mind after that.
So she found a home with Arkansas, where she brought all of that knowledge and growth back with her.
Me and Gasso actually joke about that sometimes. Someone will ask him a question, I'm like, Coach, I got this. Like, I was a coach. Like, I know the rules a little bit more now.
As the eldest member of the team, Day hasn't shied away from making her stamp as a Bogle Bomber. But despite all her success, her new team still finds ways to have fun at the expense of the 24-year-old.
They call me Gramps. Being able to have, those experiences and kind of, lead the younger group, they've kind of all latched on to me a little bit.
Unloaded to left by Courtney Day, and it's off the scoreboard. Courtney Day demolishes that Pickens pitch.
A second chance, and Courtney Day is making the most of it.
I think I'm putting way more into the game than I thought I did at Texas, just because I know that this is my last year. Like, and like being on the other end where it's like it's over and like you miss it, like me being able to come back and play one more year, like I want to leave everything I have on the field.
I was doing some research, and man, you've had such an interesting journey in college softball so far. So want to get to know you a little bit and hear about it. But first off, you're from the Houston area, right? Mm-hmm. So tell me about it, growing up in Pearland.
It's grown a lot. I can tell you
that's
that
true.
much. It's definitely grown. But yeah, I've been there all my life. Mm-hmm. Not much of a city girl, but at heart, but grew up in the city.
Yeah.
Just have a lot of friends and family.
That's great. So your family's still there?
Yes, family's still there.
Did they ever get the chance to come up here and see you every now and then?
They come to as many home games as they can.
Oh,
they obviously
nice.
went to Texas State because it's
Yeah.
close, and then they're going to go to A&M. But
Okay,
they're
cool.
trying to make as many games as possible for my last year, yeah.
You have a couple siblings too, right?
Mhm. I
Any
have
other athletes in the family?
Well, they played. They played. My sister played in high school. She didn't want to go to college
Okay.
because she didn't want to do the work for it, which is fair.
Fair.
My brother didn't like to practice, but he now regrets it because he's 6'3", and so he's like,
Oh, man.
wasted all of that. On
What did he play? Was
He played baseball.
Okay, baseball.
And then wanted to play football, but just
Yeah.
at the time, whenever he was playing football, he was like 70 pounds, and he was like,
Aw.
this hurts.
Yeah.
And so he quit, but then now he's like, well, I just wasted my entire like height and everything
Yeah.
on video games and all of that. So
What about you? When did you start playing?
I started playing when I was 6, I believe, yeah.
Okay. Was it always softball for you?
No, so it was actually soccer. I was
Soccer, yeah.
soccer at first, and I mean, back then it was Pee Wee Soccers, but I was pretty
Still.
good apparently.
Yeah.
That's what my mom tells me. But I wanted to be just like my mom. And so I found out that she never played soccer. And so I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm done playing soccer. And she was like, she was a swimmer, like all-American swimmer. And she was like, you're not swimming, so don't even think about it. So she gave me the option of doing barrel racing or softball. And I asked if she ever played if she ever did barrel racing. She said no. So then I was like, okay, then softball. So that's kind of how my journey started with softball.
Those are interesting options, though. Most people
Yeah.
would have gone with
Yeah.
like the swimming or something.
Yeah.
Is that the Texas, I guess,
Well,
in the family?
she like would practice like 8 hours a day, and she was
Okay.
like, I'm not doing that. Like, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
And so she was like, you can do softball or something else, but you're not swimming.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned the barrel racing, though. I'm curious about that. Did anyone else in the family do anything like that?
So my favorite animal is a horse, and so I
Okay.
loved horses growing up. Like, that's all I could talk about. And my dad's side of the family, they're from Winnie, Texas, so like very like country. Yeah. Some of them had mentioned, like joining rodeo. Like, we had a couple that like rode bulls, and we did mutton busting like
Love
as
that.
kids.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if that kind of like piqued her interest in like barrel racing, or she saw like something like a flyer or something about it, and she was like, maybe she might like this.
Yeah.
But I turned it down. Now I do wish I would have, at least given it a shot.
So
but
is your family like big rodeo people then? They go to like the Houston rodeo?
we go to the
and
Houston
stuff?
rodeo every year. Yeah,
That's always fun.
yes, we love rodeos.
I was wondering, so I've seen it, your celebration. Does that have anything to do with like a rodeo situation? Like, tell me about it.
Okay,
How'd you come up with it?
So I grew up watching the movie 8 Seconds. So I've
Okay.
been a huge Lane Frost fan for as long as I can remember. And so that was his celebration after every ride. And so I've always done it since high school. Just, his celebration. So it's the Lane Frost.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Did you have to explain that to any of the girls here? Like, did they know what you were doing?
No, they've asked about it, and even on my previous team, they asked about it. They were like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
Like, they just thought I was trying to like hype up the crowd or something. But
Which does the trick. It
yeah,
does do
I
that.
guess,
That's
but
funny.
yeah, it's for Lane Frost.
Very cool. So let's talk about when you started taking softball seriously and stuff and getting recruited. What was that like for you, hearing from different programs across the country?
It was a cool experience. I wouldn't say like I was like a big, I wasn't like one of the top names coming in the portal, or not the portal, the recruiting process. So like I was really talking to like small schools, and it wasn't until like Arkansas I did talk to like maybe my sophomore year, but that was like the biggest school that I had talked to. But it wasn't until my senior year where like bigger schools started kind of reaching out. So I would say it was fun, but like I didn't really like have that pressure of like, maybe like other players.
Well, you ended up at Texas, which being from that Pearland area had to be really exciting for you too, to be able to go there and stuff and play for that program. What was your time like there?
I liked Texas. Like it was a fun experience, just a competitive environment. We were always one of the top teams in the nation every single year. So just being able to compete against the best and, beat some of the better teams in the nation is just, you can ask for something better. The culture and stuff, it was kind of rocky there for a while, but it's nothing like it is here. I'll say that. But I mean, you play with, a bunch of different types of girls everywhere you go. And so sometimes it, it molds well and sometimes it doesn't. But, we still, regardless of like how we were off the field, we showed up every single day, trying to compete and win. And so it was a cool experience in that aspect.
And one of your roommates is actually Carly Ratcliffe, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was
That's so cool. Yeah. Like, what are the odds? Seriously.
Yeah.
Were you guys really close, I guess?
Yeah, we were very close at Texas. And actually, she was one of the reasons I came here, too. So
okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to dive into that in a little bit. But after you were at Texas, you decided to go to Ole Miss for a little bit and unfortunately got injured. What happened?
At Texas, I had been struggling with a back injury. And that happened my actually junior year, right before we played here at the Super. So I had my whole senior year kind of was in and out of the game just because it was just bothering me like so bad. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't want to play anymore. And my mom was actually the one that was like, hey, like maybe you should just enter your name in the portal and kind of see what happens. Because at that point I was like, no, hanging up the cleats, done. And so then I went through the whole recruiting process and it was kind of fun, because I didn't have all of like the Power 5 schools reaching out, and so like seeing like all of these like big schools reaching out, and it was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. Awesome. Yeah. And so then kind of like opening up that recruiting process, it made me excited to kind of play again. And so then I committed to Ole Miss and I went there in the fall and just my back just kind of gave out on me and my body kind of shut down a little bit. And it was like, I don't think I even finished one full practice.
Wow.
At all in the fall.
Yeah.
And so couldn't get through a game, nothing. So I was like, this just isn't worth, being away from my family.
No, absolutely. I mean, back pain is seriously it's one of the worst. And did they try to do any type of therapy with it, or like what was the process like of you kind of deciding what to do with that?
So I was actually in the athletic training room probably 4 hours a day.
Yeah, I bet.
And on top of that doing PT every week, twice a week. And so we got steroid injections. We tried everything. And at that point it was just not working. And so it was just, I was getting into a very bad mental state, being that far away from my family and not being able to do what I went there to do. And it was not just a fun experience for me. Now I loved the girls and I loved the team. It was just, I couldn't,
Absolutely. You got to do what's best for you. And how did you make that decision of what to do next?
It was kind of I knew towards the end of the fall that I just was checked out, that I didn't want to return. I had talked to my family about it. I had talked to, my fiance. I had talked to, he was my boyfriend at the time, but I talked to him. I talked to, even our athletic trainer. I was like, is this even worth it? Do you see me getting, better from this? Do you see me, actually being able to compete in the spring? And so I talked to her about it, kind of seeing what her thoughts were. And she was like, I don't see this, getting better. We're going to do as much as we can. You're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. But at that point, it was every day was just bad. And so when I went home, it was okay, I felt like I needed to be home. And, there was a situation in the fall where my boyfriend had got into a really bad horse accident. And we thought he was going to, die at the point or be paralyzed or something. And so being that far away kind of was okay, I'm this far away from my home. I can't be there if something happens to, my family or to him or to someone close to me, and I'm not here doing what I wanted to do. So it's this worth being that far away and something like that happens and me not being able to be there. And so that was kind of the turning point of everything. It was yeah, I just don't need to go back.
That's such a hard decision to make too, because of all the work that you had put into getting to that level too. So I'm sure it was difficult. And then did you move back home? You moved back with your parents, or how was that?
So I moved back with my parents originally, and then I ended up getting a head coaching job shortly after. And then I moved in with my boyfriend.
Okay. Tell me about the head coaching job. Is that something that like you had wanted to do, or how did that like fall into place?
So I never even, like, if you ask anyone, I was always like, I'm never going to be a coach. I just couldn't do it. So when the opportunity arose, it was like, wow, like I get my first job to be a head coach. Like that's not something that's very heard of. So I was like, okay, this sounds like too much of a good opportunity to kind of pass up. And plus my boyfriend was teaching and coaching at the same school. So it was a fun experience, and like we got to work together and stuff. And so it was just like they needed a head coach. I didn't even know what I was supposed to be teaching at that moment. Like they were just like, we just need you to coach. We'll figure out everything else like once you get here. And so I ended up taking the job right after I quit from Ole Miss, and they like it was actually coming back from winter break. So they had the second semester just now learning the kids, and they ended up telling me that I was going to coach college prep math, which was all seniors. And I was like, oh great. Okay. I'm good at math.
I was about to ask.
So it's like, I like math. So I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Like, okay. Turns out I'm better at understanding math than I am teaching math. Yeah. But it was definitely a learning experience.
Well, I'm sure, like all around too. I mean, like playing softball is one thing as well, but then having to come up with like the practice and what everyone's going to do and how you're going to teach them how to do it, and not to mention you're wrangling like 20 to 30 high school girls. I'm sure that was difficult too.
Oh, that was horrible. Okay, so then on top of that, I was the only coach for a while.
Oh wow.
So I was doing.
So you didn't have a staff?
No, I did not have a staff. I had, I guess, like an assistant there for a while, and then he kind of stepped away. So it was just me with varsity and JV.
Oh wow.
Trying to come up with a practice plan, and he didn't know anything about softball anyways. So it's like I was doing everything anyways. So nothing really changed there. And then we had another assistant come in. Well, he was the head volleyball coach, so he was never there because he was with his volleyball team. So I mean, the whole season I was pretty much there and only had help whenever we would play games. Wow. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. And then, having to deal with parents and all of that, like that was an experience.
Yeah, sure.
Very much so. So it was very, I don't think I would do it again, no. To be honest.
To kind of give you a new level of respect for what the coaches do.
Definitely. Yeah. I actually texted my high school coaches in the midst of it because they actually came to some of my games because they were so excited.
That's very nice.
They were so excited. Yeah. And I was like, how did you do this? Like, how? I don't understand. And they're like, girl, like, we don't know either. Like, amazing, we still deal with it. Yeah. It was, I mean, they're actually coming to the A&M game, so that'll be fun.
Yeah. Did you reach out to any of them or any other coaches to like get some advice or anything while you were doing that?
I did. I reached out to my head coach. It was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't know how to deal with, the drama and like all of that stuff from like a coaching standpoint. How to deal with, like fundraising and like building schedules and all of that. Like my athletic director kind of helped me with a lot of that, but it was just dealing with girls that are 14 to 18 years old. It's a lot going on, and then like with dramas and boyfriend drama and high school drama.
And someone's not playing and they should be playing.
Exactly,
that
like
stuff.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
So it was a good experience, I guess.
A great learning experience.
There you go. Because you guys actually did pretty well, didn't you? I mean, I read that you guys made it to the playoffs.
Playoffs in the first time in 4 years. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all bad.
It wasn't all bad. No. It was a good. I think I grew. It helps me grow a lot. Like I had to, I was no longer just there like I was on my team. Like I was always more of like a I'll do it and show you kind of leader, never like a vocal leader. And so it kind of made me had to learn to talk and to communicate. That's and I've never been that way. I mean, if you ask anybody, like I'm very quiet and
You don't seem like it right now.
Well, I've
So
grown. Before here, I was very quiet. I would never even step foot in here and do this.
Really?
So I was just like.
So it's opened up like a new side of you then.
Yeah. So it's taught me how to speak, taught me how to like kind of communicate more.
That's great.
And yeah, it was a good learning experience for me.
So during that time, were you thinking about maybe getting back into softball, or when did that start?
So when I was there, because like I said, it was just me out there. So it's kind of having to find practice plans that I could make sure everyone was getting something out of with just me out there, because I didn't have someone working with outfield or someone working with infield. So it was like, how can I, make this as beneficial as possible? And so we did a lot of live reps and scrimmages and stuff where I would actually pitch to them.
Okay.
And compete with them, whether it be like me playing outfield or stuff like that. And so that was fun for them because they got to see, me, and they don't there's not very many athletes that come out of there that, play at the college level, especially like a Power 5 school. And so for them, this was like a huge deal that they got to, compete with me on the field. And so it was fun for them, but it also made me realize how much I actually missed it. And it also made me realize how much I wasn't in pain while I was doing it. And so I think the break is what kind of, made my back kind of calm down a little bit. And that was it kind of sparked the interest of what if? Yeah. And so after I, the summer rolled around where I wasn't coaching and stuff, I actually tried to enter the portal, I think the second week of June, and just didn't, work out how I wanted. But the thought of playing again, I guess, never left my mind after that, because then I started coaching select. Okay. And so then that, which that was a lot better than teaching high school, let me tell you. So then just, being involved in the game and seeing how much I've grown, because, coaching kind of tests you a little bit. You have to because you have to train your brain to teach it a different way. And so it kind of, tested how much I knew about the game. And in my mind, I thought, well, I think I've proved that too, but it showed that I felt like I could be a better softball player now that I've actually coached all of these teams than I did before. And so that was okay, I think I should go back if having the opportunity to go back, because I didn't know if it was even doable at the time.
Yeah. So you say that, do you see the game differently than now?
I think I respect the game a lot more, knowing that I do see the game a lot different. I think my IQ of, softball has grown tremendously. And there's a lot of things that I'm able to answer now from a coaching standpoint, because I'm I've been there. And so me and Gasso actually joke about that sometimes, because he'll ask, or someone will ask him a question. I'm like, Coach, I got this. I was a coach. I know the rules a little bit more now. And so but I also do respect the game a lot more, because having sat out, I know what it is to not play and not be a part of the game. And so I think this year it's I am giving it all I have. I think I'm putting way more into the game than I thought I did at Texas, just because I know that this is my last year. And being on the other end where it's it's over and you miss it, me being able to come back and play one more year, I want to leave everything I have on the field.
Let's talk about how you ended up at Arkansas. So you're in the portal, I assume, right? Mm-hmm. How did you hear from Arkansas first?
So I actually reached out to Carly.
Okay.
And because Arkansas has always been, because like I said, they recruited me in high school. They stopped recruiting me because I committed to another college. Right. And that was just an impulsive decision. And I cried my eyes out when I found out that they were not recruiting me anymore. But Arkansas's kind of been number one in my mind. After Texas, I wanted to come here and it just didn't work out. And so then once I officially hit the portal, I texted Carly and was like, hey, tell Coach Deifel I just hit the portal. And so Coach Deifel actually called me, and I mean, it was easy as that. I went on other visits, but I knew that I wanted to come here.
Yeah.
So
had you been following the program at all? Like, did you know about the success that Coach Courtney Deifel had here and stuff?
Yeah. So I've kind of followed Arkansas since, my sophomore year. Like whenever I had, reached out to, I was actually talking to Coach Yo at the time.
Okay.
And so me and her had a pretty good relationship, and just like knowing that it was always the what if factor. Like, what if I didn't commit there, and what if I, had just committed here, or like it's always that, what if
right
in the back of your mind. And so I definitely followed Arkansas softball. Even when I was at Texas, I still followed them. Well, and then, Taylor Ellsworth came over here, so I followed her, career and her journey here. And then Carly came here. So it's like I always kind of had a reason to, also with the help of them. And then, playing against them in the supers and just seeing how Coach Deifel interacted with her, girls, and how she was hugging Taylor and crying with Taylor. Like, I didn't have that at Texas. Like, we had a relationship, but it wasn't like, Coach White would cry for us or like anything like that. So seeing like her, like basically kind of like take on that mom role and, treat her players as like her daughters was like a really cool thing. It's like something like I've always wanted, just like a family, like kind of environment for a team. And so, seeing that and then hearing Carly and how much she loved, here, it was like kind of like, okay, like that's somewhere that I could like, see myself playing. And then Coach D actually was like we want to be your happy ending. And I was like, okay, that's it.
Oh,
like,
that's so sweet. Yeah. I love that.
It was like, okay, I'm sold. You got me.
Plus, I mean, playing here, what do you think of the environment and stuff? Did that help win you over as well?
It was a cool experience.
Yeah.
It was so cool, to have the berm and, all the people like shouting and like be surrounded by fans like every part of the field.
Yeah.
Like, that was just starting whenever I was at my senior year of Texas. They had just started putting, stands out there. So we never really had that. We had the wall, I guess you could say, but it was like only so many people could fit on the wall.
Yeah.
And so, like, to have, so many fans, like, yelling at you behind the outfield, it was just a cool experience.
Well, you mentioned, it's your last year. And does that change your mindset coming into the season? Because you've had a great season so far, man. It looks like the numbers, we'll start with it. How about that? Batting .358 with 9 home runs, 24 hits, 20 runs scored, 39 RBI, 11 walks. I'm sure there's more. But that's just incredible. So what's been your approach?
Just, so like I kind of said, like just, I wouldn't say there's a necessarily an approach, but it's not worrying about, the pressure. It's not worrying about, like, what I'm doing every single at bat, or like just I've taken away like all of like the little mental negative thoughts and doubt and all of that, and kind of just put my mind towards what I'm playing for. And it's just the opportunity to play. It's just the opportunity to finish on my terms, the opportunity to finish how I want to, and to, have that happy ending that Coach D was. And so it's just leaving everything on the field and doing my job as much as I can so that our team can be successful. Like, that's just my mindset. And obviously, like, frustrations creep in when I don't have the outcome that I want. But at the end of the day, I'm playing for something bigger than myself. I'm playing, for the Lord. I'm playing for, my teammates. Like, I'm not just, putting all of this pressure on myself that I have to perform like I did at Texas. Yeah. I'm playing more freely. And I think that's kind of been my approach, I guess.
That's great, though. And it's a great way to look at things, too. I want to ask you about the Lipscomb game, because that was your first home run that you had since, I don't know, like I think it had been over 600 days is what it was. What do you remember about that moment and what it felt like to do that for the first time in a long time? Well,
it's funny that you bring that up, because now looking back at it, I was surprised it went over. I did not think that ball was going over, but that's like a lot of my home runs. I never think they're going over. But I was like there's something about that home run where I was just like, oh, that actually went over. Yeah. And so now looking back at it, it was a cool thing, because my fiance had brought his like assistant coach, and their family all came, and so they had never watched me play before, and that was the first time he's watched me in I don't know how long. And so that first, or second at bat of that game, I came in and they're like, hit a home run for us. And so then, being able to do that, and they actually get to experience that with their 2 little kids,
that's cool.
Was more fun than, just hitting another home run.
Absolutely. What's it like being one of the older, or probably the oldest girl on the team?
I am indeed the oldest on the team. I'm actually older than our grad assistants. So
oh my goodness.
That's funny too.
I might have heard that they call you, they have a nickname for you.
They call me Gramps.
Yeah.
Yep, they do call me Gramps.
I'd have a problem with that.
It doesn't bother me so much. I think it's funny because Ole Miss called me Meemaw, so I think it's better than Meemaw.
Yeah, that's fair. We'll take that. We'll take Gramps over Meemaw.
I think I've gotten used to it at this point, but no, they call me Gramps, and they just never fail to tell me how much older I am than them. We actually, speaking of this the Central Arkansas game, Raw was talking about one of her friends being 24 and how that's her oldest friend because she had just turned 24. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, okay, are we not friends? Or does she just not realize how old I am? And then she looked at me and she goes, oh, wait. Courtney, how old are you? Right. And then I was like 24.
Put it together.
Goes, oh, yeah, you're my oldest friend.
Yeah,
I was like,
there you go.
Okay.
Do the coaches look at you any different maybe or like expect anything from you because you're the older vet on the team?
I wouldn't say they don't ever bring it. Now, they did turn it into a joke because I just turned 24 in January.
Okay.
And so they're like, happy birthday, Courtney, you're 34. Or like something like that. Like they've made jokes about that, but they don't really like, no, she does call me grandma all the time. I lied. She does call me grandma. Especially like when I'm moving slow. She's like, come on, grandma.
Oh, man. She likes to give you a hard time.
Yeah, she gives me a hard time about it. But they expect me to, which I expect this for myself and, anyone who's kind of a veteran on the field, kind of just to, be a leader for the younger ones who haven't, been there. I've gotten the opportunity to play in the College World Series. And so I don't think anyone else on the team has. And so, having that under my belt, being able to kind of take on that leadership role and, use my experiences and, also have the experience of not playing for a year. So then, having that under me too and being like, hey, like this, you only get a certain amount of time. Like I was the lucky one that, got to come back. And so being able to have, those experiences and kind of, lead the younger group, they've kind of all, I would say, what's it called? Like, latched on to me a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
And so, like, being able to be there for them is kind of
that's great.
What role I've taken on.
I do hear that you like listen to some like early 2000s rock or something when you're practicing.
There is a playlist on Spotify. It's called Divorced Dad Rock Bangers. And I love that playlist.
First off, how did you even find that playlist?
My fiance. My fiance, yeah. He found, so funny story. We would go mudding a lot. Mm-hmm. And that would be one of the playlists that he would play. And then we actually know some people that built a sports bar from like where he's from.
Okay.
And every time we would go, we'd ask for the aux and we'd play that playlist every single time. And we would be the only table just like
rocking out
at this restaurant. And it was just fun. And so then I came in, one bullpen, and I was like, I want to listen to Divorced Dad Rock today. And Coach T was like, okay.
So who's on? Like Creed, who else is on it?
Nickelback, Hinder.
Oh, great.
Daughtry.
Well, as we kind of wrap things up, I mean, first off, your back's feeling good. Mm-hmm. Everything's good. Mm-hmm. Great. So has this just been everything you hoped it would be so far, getting back into the game?
Yeah, definitely everything. Everything I've hoped for and more, honestly. So, just, building the friendships, because that's kind of why I wanted to come back, is to, build friendships and have, those long-lasting friendships. Because, yes, I still talk to some of my old teammates, but I don't feel like as close as I do with the girls and the friendships that I've made here.
Yeah.
So,
It's that family feel that you
Yeah.
were talking about.
yeah.
That's great. And you mentioned you've got experience in the College World Series. You think maybe, I don't want to jinx it, guys, maybe we got what it takes to get back there?
I think we have the potential if we continue to, grow and play, and we haven't even touched into like what this team could be yet. So I think once we kind of, settle down, then we'll have a good shot.
You're good. Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us. I'm excited for everyone to hear your story because it really is unique, and I'm happy to have you here as a Razorback. I know the fans are too.
Thank you so much.